With the flick of her pen, she writes.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We are live today at the Chai House Tea Bar in Rockaway, Pointe, where I am going to be doing a live story circle reading of the next chapters in the book that we're working on, Flying Potion. So if you've been following Flying Potion, and we've been working through it and writing every Sunday and Bringers of the Light Sundays. I'm working on bringing these together in an audiobook format. So chapters 1 and 2 are already out there. And there is a playlist for them in YouTube and in Spotify. But today we decided to meet up at Rockaway Pointe's premier coffee bar, the Chai House, and do a live story circle. So this will be a little bit more, interactive versus just like a, plain audiobook format. And we might vacillate back and forth between the regular readings and these live story circles, and maybe go to some different places about Rockaway Pointe and Tessa Lock for these live story circle readings. So without further ado, let's get back into Flying Potion. This is chapter 3. Broccoli has wings. Are you finished? Rory asked his girlfriend. Yes, yum, that broccoli casserole was to die for, Sunny said, placing her napkin on the table and taking the last drink of her creamy chai latte. Well, Rory said, a strange feeling coming over him. That broccoli casserole was already working its magic. Shall we do something fun today? I don't feel like going into the office. Rory suddenly felt like going over to the marina and taking his dad's boat, the Old Sioux, out for a spin. What do you say? Are you up for a sail around the harbor? He asked Sunny, and he took the bill, and he was helping her up from her chair. And Sunny's like, well, I do have a 1 o'clock blowout for Candy's dog. Sunny also felt like letting the breeze fly through her hair while the sea spray went up around them. Let's do it, she said. Rory paid the bill and again felt that twinge to leave the world behind and go have some fun. He'd been working hard for his father, Grant, at Tessa Lock's only law firm, Higgledy's Proper Attorneys at Law. Higgledy specialized in property law and land management cases. If old Mrs. McGillicuddy's big oak tree fell on your car during a storm, then Higgledy's was who you would call on to sort out all the details of who owed who what and who must pay for this or that. Rory had recently received his law certificate, which allowed him to apprentice with Grant, but not yet practice law in the courts. Although Tessa Lock had its own unique way of handling law cases, Rory figured Grant could handle the day's appointments without him, and that a sail on the Old Sioux was well deserved. His hand tingled as he walked out of crust with Sunny. Sunny had some funny, tingly feeling all her own as she had decided finally that she would sell her home in Nantucket, USA, and become a resident of the good old UK. Rockaway Pointe and Clark Witherspoon had been very generous to her, and she felt her luck had greatly improved ever since she'd left her old boyfriend behind and taken Clark up on his offer. The Rambling Rose cottage suited her just fine, and she'd made many friends about town. She needed a day off, too, and a chance to figure out what it really meant to become a citizen of a new land. Magic was afoot in the broccoli casserole and in their lives, and Rory and Sunny were about to get some next-level magic at the insistence of Abigail's spellwork. Chapter 4. Beans Aren't Burnt. Rory and Sunny took the coast highway round to Tessa Lock. It was a little longer of a trip, but so beautiful to drive along and see the ocean out the window. There was a little spot at the halfway point between the two towns where you could pull your car off and sit under the trees at some little tables. There was always some sort of food truck or vendor there selling hot drinks or a savory snack. Look, it's the Beans Aren't Burnt food truck, Sunny said as they parked the car and got out to stretch their legs. Let's get a pumpkin pie latte and some of their scones. Rory, still full from the broccoli casserole, settled for a flat white and a blueberry corn muffin, while Sunny got a large pumpkin pie latte and a strawberry scone. Now let me drop in here and say it's not lost on the friends here in Rockaway Pointe Chai House Tea Bar that we are talking about Tessa Locke's Beans Aren't Burnt workout bar, coffee bar. So right now during this circle reading, the girls at the baristas at the chai I can't even talk straight, chai house are offering you 50% off a pumpkin pie latte and a free strawberry scone if you decide to partake of that during this live circle session. Mrs. O'Mathers had used the last of her summer strawberries in the mix of her strawberry scones, and her son Paul plated up the treats while his twin brother Saul made the drinks. Paul and Saul were identical twins with a knack for rhymes and some very fun Kayleys at their own pub in town, the Black Dog, not to be confused with Black Tongue Properties. Rory and Sunny took their drinks and sat under the very old whispering pines to enjoy the day. The sailboat was being readied for their journey by Rory's friend Talcyon. Talcyon was all about the maritime adventure and lived on his own boat in the marina, the Holy Spiritus. The old Sioux would be ready for the pair when they arrived, and for now Rory and Sunny could simply enjoy their beans aren't burnt fare and relax. A strange sensation came over Sunny, and she looked behind her and past Rory's shoulder into the pines. "I just had the strangest feeling," she said, with a shiver in the late autumn sun. "I feel like we're being watched." "No one here but us," Rory said, although he felt something too. 30 miles back in Rockaway Pointe, Abigail waved her hand over her scrying mirror. It looked like the couple were having a joyous, fun time. It was everything she could hope for, since she'd used some of her finest magic on that casserole. Chapter 5. The Old Sioux. Tessa Locke Marina was bigger than the Rockaway Pointe one, but still held an old charm like its smaller counterpart. Sunny and Rory arrived right on time as Talcyon finished up the preparations on the Old Sioux. At 35 feet long, she was enough of a boat to be challenging, but not too small to feel like a dinghy. Talcyon had stocked at the fridge below deck, just as Rory had requested, with champagne, those little pimento sandwiches that seemed to go so quickly once you ate, quote-unquote, just one, and a cherry tart from Buns and Such, the only bakery and workout bar around the northern coast. There was the wrapped gift placed just so on the counter as one entered the boat at the front, and the hull and interior wood floors had been scrubbed, polished, scraped, and stained. Yep, the old girl was ready for this next sailing season, even if it was only for a few weeks before the marina closed up for the winter. The Old Sioux would be winter-readied and moored further inland until spring, so best to enjoy every minute of possible time, loving the weather and the water. Sunny got her overnight bag from the boot of the car, while Rory paid Talcyon for his help. $2,200 and an ice chest full of oysters from the fish store, fish and chips for the eclectic, which owner Horace Brinkerton had just freshly trapped that morning. Seagulls gulled, and swifts swirled around in the sky while the pair readied to push off from port. They would run the motors today and use the sail only if the winds picked up. It was blue sky, sunshine, and clear water for miles out today, Talcyon said as he placed the ice chest on the back of his electric bike and made haste to take his own boat out on the water. His girlfriend, Katerina, not to be confused with the human-stealing fairy Cantankara, had their boat Holy Spiritus all decorated for Halloween. They'd grill the oysters opened the bottle of Prosecco that Taugian's father had given him for his 21st birthday 5 years ago, and watched Scream for the who knows how many times. Both couples had agreed to meet up later that day for the Tessa Lock and Argyle Inn sponsored pumpkin patch and corn maze. And maybe, if they still had energy left, they'd head over to Rockaway Pointe for the annual WBAT 44 AM Haunted House Night. All in all, this autumn season had been kind to the northern coast, and the wicked storms others were seeing at this time of year had luckily passed them by. Rory and Sunny motored out of their dock slip number 235 and off into Tessa Lock Harbor. What they didn't see was the little boat that had also left the harbor at the same time. If they weren't careful, then they might get caught up in some unnecessary drama with this little boat. But beside each person was a guardian angel intent on keeping them safe. I'm going to break in here as the mention of WT44 AM reminded me of the Lighthouse Bulletin Board and Sea Star, who has brought me, I'm going to take a pause here. Take a sip of my pumpkin pie latte. Sea Star over at the Lighthouse has brought me an advert off of the bulletin board that I thought would be beneficial to read for everybody here in case you might be interested. It's free jars of pickle tart. Abigail Smile is giving away jars of her famous pickle tart yet again this autumn season, and they'll be here at the Chai House Tea Bar. For every donation you make to the Save the Wharf Foundation, you can receive a jar of Abigail's award-winning pickle tart. The wharf is home to many marine animals, particularly Old Wart, a very elderly seal. You guys have seen him out there, who makes the wharf his home. Visiting the Chai House to donate, pick up your pickle tart because it did win Best in Show at last year's Autumn Festival, and make a kindly donation to the Save the Wharf Foundation. Now, back to Flying Potion. This is Chapter 6. The Boat Takes on Water. Abigail smiled and went about her morning routine. It was nice to have Dakar back home, even though he was only gone overnight. She primped her hair and came downstairs to find him musing over the local paper, The Gist. The Rockaway Pointe Gist had its first printing in 1845, and since then, every morning on your doorstep, one could find Terry Bratherton's Drunken Spoon Tavern recipes, WBAT 44 AM's Song of the Day, and Polly Williker's Enchanted Gossip. Now, Polly had been writing this column for many, many moons, but this day was the first time she'd seen a broom flying over town that she didn't recognize, and she'd been trying ever since to figure out who the new witch in town was. She'd captured a blurry shot of Mindy Smatherton the other morning, high on Flying Potion and touching down right behind Crust. She'd sent Scratchy to investigate, but all he came home with was an itchy rash on his front paw, and some story about how an old hag witch had jump-scared him and ran him off. Polly had called Heather Happenstance, our girl about town, but Heather was on vacation at Alton Towers Resort with her new paramour, Paul O'Mathers from the Black Dog Pub in Tessa Lock. Heather having met Paul after a very confusing letter he'd sent to her about how he and his twin brother Saul had seen a ghost in the backyard of their Tessa Lock home that they thought she might be interested in. Well, Polly thought to herself that it was up to her again to figure it all out, while simultaneously Scratchy was thinking the same thing. Now, Mindy Smatherton, she puckered her lips and waited patiently outside Dakar's cottage. He would have to come home soon to change his clothes, she thought, admiring him for his taste in fine menswear and his penchant for always being stylish. He'd have to change clothes soon. He'd been wearing that same cashmere sweater and tweed slacks since the day before. And it was in this time of his greatest vulnerability, pants around the ankles, that Mindy would smooth in and swoop in and capture his heart again. For surely Dakar had not forgotten about their tryst so many lifetimes ago. All right, friends, I'm going to wrap up our live story circle here at the Chai House Tea Bar. And I want to thank you all for coming in, joining me. And one day, when Flying Potion is completely done, we will do a little book signing somewhere in town. But for now, we will see you all again soon, somewhere in the astrals, somewhere in Rockaway Pointe, or Tessa Lock, where we might do our next live story circle reading of Flying Potion. Stomach in knots? Go see Cassie at Chai House Tea Bar. Her special drink this month is a mugwort chai or a chamomile frizzle. Both are guaranteed to set your mind at ease and calm your tummy troubles. Chai House Tea Bar, where you'll find a drink for every occasion.